Oh, here goes recording. So other meetings that we're members of, we had to actually do a formal resolution during the meeting to adopt those rules. But I think we're just under those rules. So we just continue to do online meetings. We'll see when we get back to live. The first item on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting, which was the January 24th, 2022 meeting. And if there's some questions, I guess we'll entertain those now. If not, we'll.
Actually, Chair Benedetti, I just wanted to interrupt for just a moment. The next item after roll call is the public comment period.
I'm sorry, public comment period, yeah.
That's okay, and you're right. There is a regulation, and it's AB 361 that allows the city of Santa Maria and its boards, commissions, and committees to conduct meetings via this remote access. We do not currently have any attendees in either the chambers or on our Zoom meeting call for public comment.
Very
So
good.
now we can go on to the next item.
All right, thank you. So the next item, again, like I said, if we don't have any changes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of that meeting. Any questions or comments about the agenda or the meeting that we had on January 24th? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the January 24th meeting.
Been moved by Member Childers. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Seconded by Member Ortiz, and we'll have a roll call. That's why.
Childers,
Aye.
Member Ortiz,
Here.
Member Owen,
Aye.
and Chair Benedetti.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that. The next item on the agenda is item number 2, the Measure U Citizens Oversight Committee Annual Report. And you have it in your agenda. We kind of reviewed the items last time. The recommendation is that we are authorizing the chairperson to sign and Measure U annual report forwarded to the city council. So I'll ask our assistant city manager, Mr. Hackelman, if he has any comments to make about it.
Thank you, Chair Benedetti, Vice Chair Owen, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today and to discuss with you the report again. The report, as it's in the packet, is as it was presented. However, I would like to just cover a couple of items that your committee discussed at our last meeting, and just to kind of convey the questions and issues and the responses and the consistency with how the staff prepared the report. And then our overall recommendation is as stated, as you just stated. So at the committee meeting at the end of January on the 24th, the committee did inquire about whether any overtime incurred by fire personnel was funded by Measure U. Would it be reimbursed through the mutual aid program? We staff explained that overtime recorded in Measure U is incurred to maintain mandated staffing levels when fire staff are on some type of leave, so sick, vacation, medical, et cetera. And since it is not related to support of wildland fires, it is not reimbursable. Staff also explained that all overtime related to support of wildland fires, both staff working at wildland fires and staff backfilled to maintain staffing levels, are recorded in a separate account in the general fund. This committee also asked about the levy loan payments and what will happen to that appropriation of $106,130 once the final payment is made in fiscal year 2021-2022. Staff informed the committee that an appropriation for the levy loan payment would not be included in the proposed 2022-2024 budget and would be available to fund other Measure U activities as authorized by the City Council. And then finally, the committee expressed some concern that for the past 2 years, even though 3 years was mentioned at our meeting, in fact, Measure U funds have only been budgeted for 2 years now. So that's been clarified in this report by staff. Measure U expenditures spent on youth services have fallen short. So that was the question posed by the committee of the budgeted amounts and the City Council's goal of 5%. Although the committee understands that many youth activities were and continue to be hindered by the stay-at-home orders and restrictions enacted to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, the committee felt it important to make the City Council aware that Measure U expenditures spent on youth services in fiscal years 2019 and 2020 and 2020, 2021 were 4% and 3% respectively. So with those things in mind as kind of the nuance of the discussion of how Measure U has been executed, we wanted to kind of make sure that that was brought to the surface and shown that, you know, the report as it's been presented to you here today is consistent with these comments and questions being addressed. And so our recommendation is, as you stated it earlier in the staff packet.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I guess we're a committee. The committee? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, that paragraph regarding the youth services seems like it's a little bit strong. That, you know, the reason that, and I don't have a real good way of rewording it, but it just seems like it's highlighting it that staff or whatever didn't do their job. COVID is something that we had absolutely no control over, and the reason that the shortfall for the youth services, the reduction in percentage, and we didn't meet the 5%, was because of COVID, and that staff used their good judgment to redirect the funding into public service. And I just read the paragraph, and it just seems like it's a little too strong. You know, we expressed some concern, but it was, I don't know how to phrase it really, but it just seems like it's a little too strong that staff didn't do their job.
Well, why don't we, rather than, I kind of agree with the word expressed concern as if it was in a negative comment. Why don't we just say we highlighted, or some less strong adjective than as if we don't want to say it. We didn't mean it in a negative sense. We were just pointing out, you know, so highlighted, noted. Maybe we noted it.
Yes,
Maybe we noted that we saw that the expenditures were 3% and 4% rather than 5%. Maybe we just noted that. And then
I
and
like
they
that
can
wording
note it.
better.
Then the city council could note it too. So,
Yeah,
Right. It just when I read it, it struck me that, you know, we were highlighting something that was absolutely out of staff's control, out of everyone's control.
so Mr. Hackleman, can we correct this in our meeting here? Let's just say the committee noted, rather than say express some concern, can we just say the noted? If
Yes,
we say
Chair.
noted, maybe express some concern, it's a little less pointed, I guess, is a way to say it.
I'll
Yes.
agree with this.
Also, Chair Benedetti, I just wanted to ask, Andrew, were you not going to move the slides forwards? That's for the next item. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, just for the next item. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Rhonda. And Rhonda, you know, having heard this conversation, my answer to Chair Benedetti and Vice Chair Owen and the committee is that we can amend that language to take out comments about concern and make it something that's noted instead. And we can do that as it's presented to the city council.
Okay,
And-
so
yeah.
just with any motions, we'll include that in the motion to update the report to present for chair to sign.
Okay, so the motion will be as stated based on what Chair Benedetti said, and then we can add in there to amend the on the third about the Measure U expenditures on youth services. Instead of saying that the committee expressed concern, we'll say the committee noted instead of expressed some concern.
Yeah.
That for the past few years. So that would be a motion to delete express some concern and replace that with noted.
So, Mr. Hackleman, since you just stated that, I'll make the motion then, as you just stated. We'll amend the agenda recommendation item to just repeat it exactly how you just said. So
Yes, sir.
rather than repeat the whole thing, you already just said it. So I move that we adopt what you just said.
I will second that.
Are you good enough with that, Rhonda?
Yes, I'm still just one more second writing my notes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
not a problem.
Chair Benedetti,
Yes.
Member Childers,
Aye.
Member Owen,
Aye.
and Member Ortiz.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hackelman and Rhonda. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the second quarter report review. And we're going to receive it. It doesn't ask for any comment from staff, but we don't have our finance director here tonight, but did you want to make any comments about the second quarter report, Mr. Hackelman?
Yes, we actually have a slide presentation, I believe, about the second quarter report, and I have a couple slides I can go through, and then we do actually have Mary here. She's on, and there's a couple slides that she'll talk about, if that's okay.
I didn't see Ms. Harvey. Maybe I missed. Okay, maybe I have to scroll down. Oh, there we go. We have other people on the computer.
She should be there, and I can.
We have
go
a
through
whole
the-
nother list of people. I just have to do the down arrow. Okay.
She'll be on, and I can go through these really efficiently. I think a lot of this will seem very familiar to you, and it will be, I think, a pretty straightforward presentation.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so Rhonda, if you could please advance to the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, it's not showing advanced quite yet. There we go. And then next slide, please. Okay, so the Measure U 2021 mid-cycle budget update. So I'm just going to give a budget update for the edification of the committee. And in March, the City Council gave direction for Measure U spending. And of course, we know 90% for public safety, 5% for youth services, 5% for quality of life. And this is, what staff has worked hard to ensure that we're working towards, and that we're meeting these guidelines from the City Council. And on the next slide, if you'd please advance, this chart will look very familiar to you. Very similar chart to what you will have seen in the annual report, and it does reflect, these growing revenues. We've talked about the Wayfarer Act and how these revenues have grown in the last couple of years. And you can see how our budget for 2021, 2022 is creeping just a little bit above the previous year's estimated actuals. And then on the next slide, we can see kind of a roll up here of the Measure U fund analysis, and you can see that by department. And you can see that, from police all the way down to finance, how those funds are being distributed for 2020 and 2021, the estimated actuals, and then the budget as it was adopted. And then on the far right, you can see the proposed 2021, 2022 allocations by department. The next slide is, mid-cycle budget adjustments. We have had a lot of, like in any budget in the 2-year, the budget cycle that we have after the first year, we make adjustments to reflect needs of the city, its residents, and levels of service. And funding is restored for the crime analyst position, which is really important for the city's ability to address various criminal activity and investigations to ensure that we're protecting the safety of our residents and property. And funding to purchase additional bulletproof vests has been important to protect our officers, and software that allows online reporting of crime, so that the residents have really quick and easy access to reporting and getting action on policing activities or criminal activity that we need our police to address for them. And then there's a few capital projects that were recommended. So expanding our fleet, and then bringing on a mental health co-response person, someone with the mental health training that rides along with one of our police officers to help with addressing mental health calls. It calls that where the issues that are arising are related to someone who may be struggling with mental health issues. And then there's some other things related to facilities like remodeling a boiler room for vehicle processing, and then purchasing inside-outside locker banks. So lockers for our police officers to use for, their gear and clothing. On the next slide, we have fire and the budget adjustments, related to deputy fire chief position and funding 2 additional firefighters that had become unfunded, and adding 1 firefighter position formerly funded by the general fund, and then preserving staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. These are grant funded positions, and the matching funding required by the city to comply with the grant. So this was something that we needed to do to ensure that funding remained unlocked and usable for the city. And then adding $228,000 in one-time funding to staff a training cadre for upcoming firefighter academy, along with professional services, personal protective equipment, and training supplies for cadets. And then $526,000 to purchase a Type 1 engine plus equipment to replace one in an aging engine fleet. So this is kind of updating or recapitalizing one of our fire engines. And $111,000 for individually assigned radios. So communications citywide to be able to allow our firefighters to communicate and ensure that command and control is flawlessly executed when we have emergencies. $190,000 for facilities and parking lot maintenance improvement. So resurfacing parking lots, wear and tear that occurs over the years when fire trucks are coming in and out and other vehicles. So this is just maintenance and ensuring that the surfaces are maintained for activities at our fire stations. On the next slide, our Parks and Rec, or Rec and Parks, and City Attorney. So in Rec and Parks, we added 1 Park Services Coordinator to ensure proper law enforcement supervision of staff in the evening and night and weekend shifts. And then adding a couple of Recreation Leader 2 positions and 1 Technical Aid 3 position, and program supplies for these activities to conduct after school and weekend programs. So think of youth services. And an additional $60,000 to purchase a Ranger vehicle to cover day-to-day operations of patrol and enforcement at city parks and facilities. In the city attorney's office, we added a code enforcement officer, and the volume that our code enforcement deals with is really, really extraordinary. And adding this position enables us to deal with many, many different issues that help serve our business community, and our residents, and many, many other things that, enforcing the city's rules that keep our residents safe and help us maintain our quality of life in the city of Santa Maria. The next slide is a similar roll-up that shows it by category. So you can see on the far left column, the departments, so police, fire, et cetera. And then across the top columns, so public safety, youth services, and quality of life. So these are the same dollars amounts that you saw at the first slide in this presentation that showed dollars and figures. This is just looking at it through the lens of the categories that we use Measure U for. So public safety, youth services, and quality of life. That wraps up the kind of overview of kind of the budget review. And the next will be kind of a detailed look at the quarterly report. And I'm going to turn this over to our finance director, Mary Harvey.
Chair Benedetti, I had a question before we moved on regarding code enforcement officers.
Yes.
Mr. Hackman, is that the 3 code enforcement officers? Is that moving officers from general fund into Measure A, or is that 3 new positions?
These are going to be additional positions. At least I think we have Tom on the line. I want him to confirm.
And Andrew, if I may.
Yes.
Commissioner Owen, there will be 1 new position has been added by council. 2 were shifted from the general fund to free up some additional administrative assistance for the team. But the intent is to move more of our code officer specific into Measure U, so that the general fund will then pick up some additional code officers as well. But that way we can qualify those specific code elements that we do that are quality of life, such as our homeless support, our blight support, and our weed abatement support are going to get moved into the Measure U program. So we have a better and a clearer nexus between the funding and the actual activities of the officers.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to turn it over to Mary Harvey at this time to go over the second quarter report.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, council or committee members. It's my pleasure to present to you the second quarter report for Measure U. You can see on this chart that the revenues received for the first 6 months of 21-22 are 59.3% of budget, or about 12.9 million. The expenditures are at 45% of budget at about 10.1 million. The city's Measure U annual audit has been finalized, as you received last meeting. And so the beginning balance, fund balance of 11.3 million is the actual fund balance. Revenues are ahead of projections, predominantly because of strong growth in general consumer goods, autos and transportations, restaurants and hotels, and fuel and service station categories. We've also seen growth in allocations from the county and state pools, and those are revenues that are generated through out-of-state sales, including goods that are sold online to customers that live within the state. Total expenditures recorded through December 31st are under budget by approximately 1.1 million. Most of the budget underrun is in the fire department and is primarily due to the budget of about 1.1 million for the purchase of 2 fire vehicles that are planned for later this year. Andrew had mentioned that we had the Type 3 engine, and then we also have a Type 6 vehicle that's an off-road vehicle that would be used for incidents for in the riverbed. In addition, the match portion of the SAFER grant funded positions have yet to be transferred from the general fund to Measure U. So that accounts for a portion of the underrun. And those underruns are offset by increased overtime that has been incurred to maintain the required levels of staffing throughout the department. Police is slightly over budget by about 1.1%, or about 111,000. And that's caused by an increase in overtime to cover staffing shortages throughout the department, as well as increases in leave cash outs for separating employees. The library is under budget by 99,700, and recreation and parks is under budget by 321,000, because primarily their programs continue to be affected by COVID safety protocols. And both departments are very hopeful that they'll be able to offer more programs in the second half of the fiscal year and make up some of those underruns. The city attorney's office, as we just talked about, is they're under budget by about 124,000, partially because one of the code enforcement officer position was vacant during the first half of the year, and another position that had been funded by general fund had not been moved over to Measure U. So we have a correction to make on that, and that will be reflected in the year-end statements. And in addition to that, the courts being closed temporarily and not being at full capacity has resulted in reduction in the use of contracted city prosecutor. Expenditures in the measure, or the city manager's office, are for the costs associated with maintaining the city's mass notification system. And finance expenditures are for the final annual levy loan payment to the solid waste collection fund. And through the first half of the fiscal year, revenues exceeded expenditures by 2.8 million, resulting in an estimated ending fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 of about 14 million. You go to the next slide, thank you. The chart shows that through December, 92% of Measure U expenditures have been spent on public safety, 4% on youth services, and 4% on quality of life. And as we mentioned before, it's, you know, the limitations for youth services and quality of life have been hindered by COVID. And but recreation and parks and the library are both working very hard to add some programs. The library is working on several programs for youth and teens, such as story time for various ages, makerspace, teen anime club, crafting, and STEAM programs. And STEAM, if you're not familiar with that, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And then recreation and parks is expanding programs offered at the Abel Maldonado Youth Center and preparing to open the Minami Community Center and the Buena Vista Park cabin programs. So there's a lot coming up on those. So we're anticipating that with those additional staffing, our youth service programs and corrections for the quality of life categories, that we will be hopefully going to be at that 5% on both of those categories this year. So that does conclude my report, but staff and I are both available to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Did we have any questions?
No action.
This item on the agenda is just to receive report. We're not actually voting on anything here. So if there's no questions, then we could move on to the next item, which is basically just comments by the chair and committee members. Are there any comments? I guess we can go around the room. Mr. Owen, you have any comments?
Just again, thank the community for standing up to COVID and going out and spending their money in these tough times. And thank you to the staff for all the hard work they do. It's a lot of money to move around and put in the right place. And I'm really impressed again this time around with how the money has been spent. And I look forward to Rec and Parks and Library getting back open and providing their share of the services so that our community can be, continue to be a great place to live.
All right, thank you, Mr. Owens. Mr. Childers?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the staff for all their hard work on these reports. They come at us and make our job so easy. It's just really appreciated. And I thank all the rest of the committee members for their hard work here also.
Ms. Ortiz, do you have any comments?
Just want to say it's an honor to be part of this committee. Again, thank you to the staff, the city of Santa Maria, for all their hard work. I also look forward to life getting better as far as COVID and these restrictions eventually, everybody getting healthier, and we can get back to spending where it all needs to get spent. But thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you to all the staff members that stayed late. I know it's probably a little past most people's regular work schedule day. And Mr. Hackelman, I'm sure Mr. Stillwell appreciates you giving him the night off here. So, anyways, is there any other comments for staff? I don't have anything other than that. Well, if you don't have any comments from staff?
Thank you for your time, Chair Benedetti and Vice Chair Owen and committee members. We really, really appreciate your service to the community and oversight of this important fund. And on behalf of staff, thank you very much for your dedication. I don't know if there's any other staff members that have any comments.
I'm sure that after you guys give the report to the city council that there'll be an article in the paper, but I think we get a chance to really see firsthand. I mean, I think it might be lost on the overall community how this money goes. I mean, this is a lot of programs in this community that would just, I don't know where the city would be without all this money. So I don't even want to contemplate that, but good job, everybody. I guess we'll thank you again for getting the
Chair, I'm sorry,
Yes.
this is Rhonda. Ms. Harvey has her hand raised, and so does Member Owen.
Okay, well, I thought they were just saying hi. Okay, okay. All right, Ms. Harvey? Yes.
Hello. I just wondered if normally we do have somebody from the committee present the annual report to council. Were we going to do that, or did you want staff to just do that?
Well, in the past, I've had Mr. Owen volunteer because I'm in the middle of tax season. I generally don't get away that. But if Mr. Owen wants to present it again, I think he's like the annual presenter. That'd be great. If he's available. If not, then the staff can do it. It's fine.
I
Mr. Rowan?
will make myself available and I will put it on my calendar this year. I didn't put it on my calendar last year. I went brain damaged and I did have
COVID. Hey, COVID.
oh, there you go, COVID, but I'm COVID free. So
Okay, good.
I can't do that. I did have one other comment. Bakersfield passed, I have family that lives in Bakersfield. And Bakersfield passed a similar measure to what we have here. And they have an oversight committee. And I read the paper, the Bakersfield paper every day because my father-in-law, he's a very debatable type person. He likes to argue and debate, so I keep up with the paper. And their committee seems to be having all kinds of trouble and turmoil over there. It's interesting to see how smooth this whole operation runs. And then you read a paper about an almost identical operation and it looks kind of bumpy over there.
Well, we have a lot of integrity in our staff and they stick with the way the measure was passed, I think. I think that's where, usually if you're not spending the money the way it's supposed to be, citizens are going to get in an uproar. So very good. Thank you for those comments. All right. If there's no further comments, I'll just call the meeting to an end. My clock says 6:03 and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.